Are you entertained yet? Are you entertained yet, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome. It's your host, Griever, as always, bringing you guys episode 4 of Ragnarok. And let me tell you one thing. There was some solid things about this, but I know in my last review, which probably pissed a lot of people off, but we're seeing a lot of, between me and Miss Content, definitely go check out his reviews, we're seeing so much negativity, not just on our comment sections, but on Discord, on Reddit, on Twitter, everywhere. We're seeing a lot of negativity, and so I just sort of snapped in the episode 3 one. But this one, I'm going to do this critically. I'm not going to insult. If you dislike the series, just don't shit on it. But if you dislike it, treat it like a 5 out of 10, like you say. Don't treat it like it's a 0 out of 10 and claim a 5, all right? That's all I'm going to ask, but let's just move on to the episode, because let's start off with a couple of points I actually didn't like about this episode. I think this episode was a 7, 6.5, a 7. It was pretty well handled. I mean, maybe 7.5. Like, certain parts were really good, and there was a couple of key things I didn't like. So let's just get those out of the way. This time I actually took notes. I took notes this time, which you guys can't see because of glare. But one of the first things was, and this is something I will agree upon. But I'm going to say that it stopped happening now. Maybe it happens later on in the next round or the round after that. But there is an abundance use of stills. No matter how detailed they are, I will concede that point. If you want to take off a whole point off of your rating because there's an overuse of detailed, very well done stills, but an overuse of stills in this anime, which there is, I would say it's recognizable, it's easy to notice, then that's fine. But as someone who went through 2 seasons of an anime with a lot of stills and they were terrible, I guess maybe I'm not that critical of stills any longer. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I've been, it's been a biased sort of thing going on. But there is one thing I will concede, which is ironic because in this episode they actually sort of try to fix this. There's more animation than ever. From episode 1 till episode 4, what I've noticed is that there's a less and less number of stills and more animation as the episodes have been progressing. I would argue that episode 1 had the most number of still shots for the 24-minute runtime. And then episode 2, a little bit less. Episode 3, definitely noticeably less. And here in episode 4, quite noticeably less. But one of the negative points is the crowd reactions, both on the humans, not so much like major characters like Zeus or Hermes or Brunhilde and Goal or anybody like that, or Lubu's army there. More so the actual, like, the humans and the gods, the nameless ones in the crowds. A lot of the time, they're just stills, either motion lines, or they're just like, and they do a wide panel shot of, yeah, or, oh, and I do agree, that is noticeable. So that's a bit of a negative shot, because they still do it in this episode. I will concede that. The other thing was the heavy metal part. I understand why. It's Lubu. Whoa, I'm a monster. I've got shark teeth. And then it's Thor getting this giant grin on his face. Ha ha ha. I'm going to completely crush you, human. So I understood that when they did their final clash between, well, I guess not really. I guess it is their final clash between Thor's hammer and Sky Eater. There's this sort of like screamo death metal thing going on just for a little bit, like overtaking. The OST is great, and we'll get to the OST because I think it's been phenomenal, especially in this episode. But that did take me out of the moment there. The Sky Eater clash, the learning of Sky Eater, all that stuff was really good, really well animated. I liked watching the montage of him learning how to use Sky Eater and how to like develop the skill. That was fine. And then the actual rush towards them, the blow, the animation, I was totally fine with that. Couple of shots on the horse were a little I'll give you that. But for the most part, really, really solid. But that death metal thing, just as they're showing the really nice manga, crazy detailed, all dark black line shots. And it's like Lubu and Thor are sort of screaming. I couldn't tell if it's lyrically, if it's somebody like singing like that did the opening theme, which is the weakest part of the series so far still. But something like that going on, right? Like, I don't know what it was. It was like, door. And then I was like, okay. And then the OST continues after this, and once they clash, and the OST is kind of nice. I actually like that. So I don't know what it was, but that really took me out of the moment. Those are 2 points that I personally disliked. Now, let's move on to the good things, because as I said, this is a solid 7 out of 10 episode. Solid 7 out of 10. I could go down to a 6.5, I guess, but one of the things I think that bumps it up from a 6 or 6.5, I think we have to give at least one whole point, if not more, to the OST. I even wrote down some of the moments here, and I've written down OST, 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 because there was just too many instances where it fit, it made me feel, it enhanced the scene. It was something that in episode 1, and I think Miss Content brought this up, in episode 1, it wasn't really irrelevant. I couldn't, I didn't really notice it much in the way of music going on, or it was too low or something. But as each episode progresses, I'm noticing the OST more and more, and this episode has it in spades. We get the, where's the OST? The OST with the stare down scene between Lu Bu and Thor is really good. The stare down after, he breaks his legs. When the red hair shows up, and Lu Bu's like, really? Like, we're going to fight together sort of idea? One last time, old friend, sort of. That was really good. Then the OST, when Lu Bu stands up, and it's just this triumphant, like, sad but triumph music. Or even so, after... I would argue that probably my favorite OST is when after Sky Eater fails, and he rips his own arm off, and he charges forward to bite down on, just uses teeth to fight Thor, I guess, and he rides with no arms on the red hair, and that OST is playing. He's like, this is what I've been searching for, like, and then perfectly done by, boom, cutting it off. It's this triumphant, sad but triumph sort of soundtrack, sort of OST. It's really, really enjoyable. I loved it to pieces, and then they cut it off perfectly. It's a victory for Lu Bu in this weird way, sort of like for Thor. He's not really happy with how this turned out. He won, but he's not thrilled about winning this way, because he's just lost somebody, as they constantly said. They brought it up like twice in the anime, and I think they bring it up like 3 times in the manga, where they would be, had the circumstances been different, they probably would have been comrades in arms, brother in arms, best of friends, fighting on the battlefield side by side, constantly testing each other's battle prowess. This death match is almost a cruel joke to the both of them, being these great warriors and wanting to always be the best, So I think it was very fitting. It was really, really good, because it shows this thing, and we see him as a child again. This is what it means to be happy, and so sort of came full circle for his character, right? Because in his human life, he never found that type of happiness. So I guess it's sort of... The great thing about Ragnarok for Valkyrie is that always the stories, it's always three-dimensional. There's always deeper meaning to every character. No character, I believe, so far in the series is surface level like that. It's just not. I know it's a manga for meatheads, but at the same time, it's got great development and great storytelling as well. Yeah, the only other thing I got to say is I just made some notes here, guys. I thought the animation looked much better than before. I thought the Thor's hammer attack at the beginning looked clean from the last episode and this episode. I thought that looked really good. A quick note. If you guys are still going to sit here and say like it's a 4 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, I urge you to add 2+ points for Aphrodite's physics. If nothing else, you cannot take that away from me. Aphrodite's physics deserve a whole 1.5 at least. I'm just laying that out there now. You don't have to, add points for that. But you'd be weird not to. Okay. So, I think that's pretty much it. The VA, as I said, when the final scene was really good. As I said, the music sold this episode. This episode was just about as good or a little lesser than the previous episode. I thought episode 3 I have zero complaints realistically about episode 3, as you guys know. But this episode, the OST was on point. The OST was 10 out of 10 in this episode. Easily. There was not a single wrong... I'll give it the 9, because that one little death metal screamo thing, when they clashed, that was the one minus point of the rest of the soundtrack for this episode. Other than that, it was flawless and really enjoyable. And the English VA, because I'm watching the English dub, guys, the English VAs for Thor and Lu Bu I've really enjoyed, but Lu Bu there at the end, I gave it everything I had. This is what it means to be happy. And he just, like, the emotion in his voice was on point. That was some damn fine voice acting. That was some good voice acting. So I don't think I have any other points. As I said, most of these points are OST for this scene, OST for that scene, in all honesty. So, but that's my review, guys. Episode 4, I really liked it. It is the end of round 1 officially. You know, and this is the way it goes. But honestly, it was my least favorite fight. I think my least favorite fight is round 5, which is not going to be animated. But then it was always down at the bottom with Lu Bu versus Thor. Watching this now with the OST and seeing it animated, honestly, I think I'm going to have to bump it up. I don't know whose it's going to be above, but honestly, like, I feel like I didn't enjoy this fight or give it the credit it deserved. Back then, I thought this was the most one-dimensional fight in the series to date. And that's after rereading it again and now watching it in the anime, it brought me a brand new appreciation for this fight. A brand new appreciation for Thor and for Lu Bu. I didn't really care for Lu Bu before. Now I really do. I really like Lu Bu's character, and I like the dynamic with Thor as for their characters as a whole. So, yeah. Anyways, that's enough for this review, I guess, because I made all my points. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you're still enjoying the series. And my only advice to the people that are calling it garbage and calling it trash and calling it the worst thing, which, by the way, seriously, guys, I've seen Berserk 2016, and I've seen Seven Deadly Sins Seasons 3 and 4. And trust me, the worst shot in this whole series thus far is still better than every episode of that. So let's you know, let's keep it even keel here. But my only advice for that is don't continue watching. If you haven't enjoyed, if you thought the first couple episodes were crap and you didn't like them, then why do you keep watching it? That's all I can say. I don't know why you want to keep watching it if that's the case. But, I mean, if you do, fine dandy. But that's my only advice for people who aren't enjoying it. If you're really not enjoying it, if you're really hating the series, then don't watch it. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, that's it for me. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to drink responsibly, as always. And we will see you back here for episode 5, which also might be out today. Not too sure. But, yeah, can't wait for the second round. Let's see what's coming.